Good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie Bastian with your JCN News for this Wednesday, September 30th. Thanks for joining us. A man shot and killed last night became the country's latest homicide. A little over 24 hours after a double homicide in the Nassau Village community, police were called to the scene of a shooting incident on Balfour Avenue, just outside of the Village pub. Shortly before 10 last night, Police Press Liaison Officer Assistant Superintendent Audley Peters says officers responded to a scene where they discovered the body of a male lying on the sidewalk. Upon their discovery, officers summoned emergency medical services, who examined the victim and pronounced him unresponsive.
A male exited a business establishment and was walking east along Balfour Avenue when a dark-colored Nissan vehicle approached him. A male exited that vehicle armed with a firearm and discharged it in his direction, hitting him about the body. That victim has since succumbed to his injuries.
ASP Peters says it appears the victim was shot in the back, adding that evidence does not suggest the matter was gang-related. The victim's age is unknown at this time, and ASP Peters is uncertain if the victim had any ties to the Village pub. Several weeks ago, it was reported that persons were arrested at the establishment for violations of emergency powers COVID-19 orders.
Well, that is a concern to us, and it's unfortunate that this incident happened as a result of the business establishment being open. That's a matter we're going to have to look into to see whether he had permission, some special permission to be open at this time.
ASP Peters indicated that no one was arrested last night for any violations of the orders due to the urgency of the matter at hand. However, once again, he sends this clarion call to the public.
That as a community, everyone here is responsible for the security of everyone else. If you know something, say something. In particular with the proliferation of the firearms on our streets today. That very firearm that you would have reported could avert your death or the injury of someone that you know personally. So we're encouraging members of the public who know someone who's in possession of a firearm or any other instrument that is offensive to report it to the police. And in so doing, we could prevent a life from being lost, such as happened tonight.
He adds that there is an individual who is assisting the police with some information that may be able to aid them with their investigations. In news from today's session of the House of Assembly, Tuesday marked the Bahamas Parliamentary Democracy 291st anniversary, and during today's sitting of Parliament, House Speaker Halson Moultrie told parliamentarians that the Bahamas does not enjoy the same level of independence enjoyed by some of the younger parliaments in the British Commonwealth. Speaker Moultrie, in describing the current state of affairs, contends it's not able to be maintained. Mr. Moultrie says that Article 72, subsection 1 of the Bahamas Constitution states that there shall be a cabinet for the Bahamas, which shall have the general direction and control of the government and shall be collectively responsible to Parliament. The cabinet must always be accountable and responsible for Parliament.
I cannot accept that in the year 2020, some 291 years after the establishment of the Parliament of the Bahamas, which is the first arm of government, is still being pulled along by the executive branch of government like a dingy boat hitched to the membership or the mothership. Honorable members, this state of affairs is untenable.
The Speaker of the House expressing that despite the role of the chair being multifaceted, the most fundamental was the maintenance of the constitutional relationship between the executive and legislative branches of government. He contends that the separation of power should never be diluted, breached, or fused as it is today.
As a collective body, that we cannot continue to turn a deaf ear to this constitutional mandate. In accordance with Article 72, subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Houses of Parliament are essentially houses of review. One of their fundamental purposes is to scrutinize the executive branch of government. And the executive branch is constitutionally duty-bound to submit itself to parliamentary scrutiny.
The new academic year for public school students set to begin this coming Monday, October 5th. And as students prepare, Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd says next week will be dedicated to orientation to familiarize students, educators, and all other stakeholders of the new virtual platform.
During this orientation, every student will be given a username and password, which we ask most respectfully that they keep sacred and confidential because it contains their vital academic and vocational information, which no one should have access to except the student and all other relevant approved authorities.
Minister Lloyd says the orientation will be both face-to-face segmented, with certain students coming on a particular day while others attend on another day. Additionally, the orientation will also be virtual for students who choose that option.
For those who are attending in person, while we ask that each student presents in a uniform, we are, however, in consideration of the times in which we live, requesting administrators to be as lenient as necessary with students in the first weeks of school while these students adjust to the new paradigm of their education. As I indicated before, Mr. Speaker, one size does not fit all. The decision about the mode of instruction in a particular school rests with the director, upon the advice of the district superintendent and their teams. And over the next few days, notices will be published in all media advising of which schools will be utilizing whichever method they choose.
Mr. Lloyd says the safety and well-being of students, staff, educators, and other stakeholders are paramount. However, he asks that parents and students check with their respective schools to confirm which mode of instruction will be deployed. Now, as for the distribution of laptops and tablets, the minister says this.
These devices and those purchased by the ministry will first be distributed to students who are part of the ministry's lunch voucher program. There are currently 5,087 such students on this program, and the number continues to increase daily. I therefore wish that our listeners in this honorable house pay very careful attention to what I am about to say. In New Providence, beginning this Friday, October the 2nd, 2020, students on the lunch voucher program are asked to please contact the vouchers for the devices from the school they attended last year. Last school. That school will have their names and the names of their parents.
The Education Minister also urges parents and students to pay attention to all information disseminated on the upcoming school year. Now, as for student registration for the 2020-2021 school year, this is the first time in the history of education this process has been online. He says that so far, over 10,000 of the 12,000 who have completed the online process have successfully been approved and processed, and the others will be by the beginning of the school year. He also reminds parents wishing to homeschool their children to register online by signing on to the ministry's website. In COVID-19 related news, COVID-19 cases have surpassed 4,000 in the country, with the Ministry of Health confirming 119 additional COVID-19 cases yesterday. Meantime, COVID-19 related deaths nearly at 100, as health officials confirmed 4 deaths, 3 unfortunate deaths on Monday, September 28th. These deaths, all residents of New Providence, include an 86-year-old female, a 50-year-old male, and a 55-year-old female, and a 53-year-old female who died on September 23rd. The confirmed death toll now stands at 95. Further, there are 3 deaths under investigation and 1 additional non-COVID-19 related death. These unfortunate deaths increase both the number of deaths under investigation and the non-COVID-19 related deaths to 15. As for those 119 new cases, health officials confirmed that 103 of those are here in the capital, 9 on Abaco, 4 on Grand Bahama, 2 on Exuma, and 1 on Andros. This brings the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 4,022. The COVID-19 Bahamas dashboard now shows that there are 1,756 active cases. Hospitalized cases increased by 8 and now stand at 100. Additionally, there were 69 recovered cases, and the total now tallies at 2,141. 19,776 tests have been completed. Well, Member of Parliament for St. Barnabas Shannon Dawn Cartwright was not in today's session of the House of Assembly, having confirmed that he has tested positive for COVID-19. Mr. Cartwright issued a statement last evening revealing that he was advised that during a recent meeting he was exposed to an individual who tested positive. On Monday, he says he went to Doctors Hospital West to be tested and received the results yesterday afternoon. Therefore, in compliance with national regulations, Mr. Cartwright says he's following quarantine protocols and has provided notice to those who he may have encountered in recent times to assist with the contact tracing efforts. The MP says he's not exhibiting any symptoms at this time and asks the public for prayers during this time. Additionally, he's urging Bahamians to continue to adequately social distance and correctly wear masks and face coverings. He's postponing all scheduled meetings with his constituents until he recovers. He adds that these are challenging times, but Bahamians are people who have and continue to face challenges head on. You're watching JCN News. When we return, 2 government offices exposed to COVID-19 and eviction notices for shanty towns on Andros. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.